Good evening, everybody, and thanks for joining the Patriot Coalition this evening for our Nation on Fire webinar. We are so grateful that you had a chance to come out and hear all the stuff we're going to be sharing with you tonight. If you can't hear us, that means that you haven't called in to catch the audio portion of the webinar. You must call in either through your computer or a phone to access the audio portion. You can find the phone number to call in on the very top with the little telephone icon. Click on that. It'll give you the phone number. You can also visit us online at our website, patriotcoalition.com. We have a ton of social media out there, twitter.com/PatCoalition, twitter.com/PatriotWatchdog, facebook.com/PatriotCoalition, and our YouTube channel where you can find a slew of wonderful videos, youtube.com/PatriotCoalition. Hopefully you get a chance to go visit those. We have years and years worth of videos and all kinds of information for you. So last week we talked about H.R. 1041, the Jamiel Shaw II Memorial Act of 2015, basically about the fact that this is the fifth try for the bill, that Fire Coalition had secured the reintroduction of what originally was the Illegal Alien Crime Reporting Act, and got it renamed accurately for the 114th Congress. And so you can find the archive of that on the website. Tonight, we're so fortunate to have Jamiel Shaw Sr. with us. We're going to further discuss H.R. 1041, which is the new bill number for the bill. Jamiel Shaw II was murdered a little over 7 years ago. And so we're really blessed tonight to have his dad here, who's turned into quite the activist, who has learned to be very much the informed advocate for this bill and for his son, who it's named after. So we hope you guys really enjoy this opportunity that we have, especially as Jamiel is definitely a busy, busy man. If you get a chance, go to the website. On the front page, you'll be able to see Jamiel testifying just a few weeks ago, actually, before the House Oversight and Reform Committee. He did an excellent job. It is becoming old hat for Jamiel now, and frankly, I was talking about it today that, you know, really, Jamiel, you have been able to adapt so quickly, and because it's not easy. Anybody that's ever had to watch these, you can just only imagine the what goes on if you're the person that has to speak, and Jamiel does an absolute fantastic job. So his testimony was really compelling, and if you haven't heard the story about what has led him here, you will hear in a few minutes. The great thing about also Jamiel is, and I heard you say this recently, Jamiel, on another radio program, where that your activism and your being involved in this bill and on other issues relating to immigration isn't out of a need to seek revenge. It's out of a need to find that something good's coming out of all the tragedy, and that, you know, you're a pissed off dad and you want to see, you know, somebody do something good instead of just sort of spinning around in that whole revenge and you know, nobody's going to help and nobody's going to change anything. You've really taken on, you know, the opposite of that, you know what, I'm still going to speak out. I'm still going to see that we do everything possible to get this bill passed and take a tragedy that's never going to change for your family, but see that hopefully another family doesn't have to go through something like this. So I just want to commend you on that, because I don't think that's really talked about very much, is that, you know, the fact that you, for 7 years, this has been part of your family history. And for the last 4 anyway, you've, you know, allowed your son and your family's tragedy to be the way that people learn about this bill, learn about what isn't being done in the country, learn about what isn't being done about policy. So it's just really brave, and I told your sister Althea that the other night. It's really brave that you guys still, you know, plug away and want to be the positive part of change.
Yeah.
So
you're right. No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to tell everybody, up on the screen they can see the history of the bill, that the first 3 Congresses that Jeff got this thing going, it was the Illegal Alien Crime Reporting Act. And if anybody's on from California, they remember that we were working on this a long time ago, back in the 111th Congress even. And it has always been amazing to me. Now Jeff's never going to say anything about this, and Jeff doesn't care, you know, if anybody even knows who he is. But really it was Jeff Lewis that worked with his congressman, Walter Jones, to get this bill written. And anybody who's ever had to work with your congressman on anything, you understand, even if they're on your side, that that's not an easy task. So even getting the bill written was monumental, and it's had a few things changed in it over time, mainly to be more specific as to the crimes relating to the crimes, the types of crimes. The one great thing about opposition is that they always bring stuff that has nothing to do with anything. Like, you know, oh, so if somebody gets 14 parking tickets, that's going to get them. Well, no, you know, come on. So, and now Jeff's been working, has been working very closely with Jamiel on this. This is the 2nd Congress now, and you know, here you have these people who are doing everything they can at complete expense to themselves to see that something good comes, you know, out of Congress. And this really is one of those bills that there's no reason both sides shouldn't think it's a good idea, except to be totally political. And so far we do have bipartisan support, which is great, but we need more. And I'm sure Jeff will go into that a little bit. One of the things I wanted to bring up quickly, though, was something I ran across today, because I was telling Jeff this, that my dealing with this issue, which has been 8 years now, in immigration policy, I've seen what has happened with the opposition, and I've seen what the pro-La Raza folks have done. I've seen how they've messaged. The great thing about living in California is that we have a front row seat to what goes on with that lobby. And so much, and I think the whole nation got to see it last summer, with the incursion of these DACA kids coming across the border. And so much is done at sort of this, it's the humanitarian thing, and it's, oh, we have to rescue these people. And so what ends up happening is that if you are conservative, Republican, whatever, not a pro-La Raza lobby, any facts that you say tend to give off this air of, well, you're not being compassionate, you don't have this heart, you don't have this humanitarian creed about you. And I know that's just not true. And so one of the things that I've changed about my own messaging over the years has been about a part of this equation that doesn't get talked about. And it doesn't get talked about for, you'll understand the reason when I tell you. I'm going to just tell you this quick story. About a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago, when it looked like we might be talking about comprehensive immigration reform in the House, that whisper, I was asked to do an interview with a magazine, and it was a German magazine. And so these guys came out to California, and I asked them why they wanted me to do this interview. And they said, well, because you have a different perspective than what we've seen other people have. So what they've seen everybody else have, according to the mainstream media, is that you've got people with signs, you've got people angry, shouting, whatever. And what I was talking about was, at the time, and still am, is that there is what never gets brought up about illegal immigration, and especially the crime that is associated with so much of it, is that the communities where a large degree of this is happening, and we're talking about now communities where people have emigrated legally and are here legally, who've done all the right things, who have built up communities, who've built up businesses, who have families. Those are the communities where these folks go because they can blend in easily. These guys aren't, setting up a tent in Beverly Hills. And there is so much crime that happens within those communities, but nobody talks about it. First of all, we're not even collecting any statistics, period. Doesn't matter where the crime's happening. We're not taking down anything. I don't care if it's Muslims in Detroit or it's illegals in Compton. It's just not happening. But the other part of this is that there is this huge amount of unreported crime that goes on because people are being threatened, because it is in their community. They are afraid if they speak up, if they speak out, retribution will be worse than whatever the initial crime was. And we can now back that up. The claim that I was making years ago, based on anecdotal evidence, by the fact that the Bureau of Justice Statistics a year ago, and of course you guys didn't hear anything about this because they don't want anybody to know this. Hispanics in new Hispanic areas experience higher rates of violent victimization than in other areas. Young Hispanics accounted for the higher rates of violent victimization in new Hispanic areas. Now, you would think, and I was saying this 2 years ago, you would think La Raza and company, if they really were about these communities, you would do everything you could to ensure that the safety of those folks was of the utmost importance. That you want to keep the good apples, you don't want to keep the bad ones. But that's not what it is. They don't care that the people they say they are supportive of are actually the ones that are victimized. And it's a part of this that never gets talked about. And they don't want to talk about it because that brings out of the shadows what's happening. Jamiel has recently been talking about, the whole Black Lives Don't Matter thing coming out of Ferguson. And, nobody cares if a black kid is killed unless a white cop does it. Right. We don't ever talk about black on black crime. We don't talk about Hispanic on black crime. So we're not talking about Hispanic on Hispanic crime, where a huge portion of it's happening. And people need to know that when you're messaging, this is hey, are you aware that the places that that crimes are growing and the people that are being accosted the most are the very communities the opposition espouses to support? Do you think Luis Gutierrez gives crap about that fact? No, they buried that press release. But it's important. And now I'll actually give Jeff and Jamiel a chance to talk. I was on fire today.
Absolutely. I was pulling this is Jeff Lewis. That was Don Wildman, Deputy Director at Patriot Coalition and Fire Coalition. If you go to the Patriot Coalition homepage, we have the video embedded of Jamiel's testimony. I'm going to introduce him in a second. All of our project sites are linked directly on the side, in the sidebar. You scroll down and click on the Fire Coalition blog. That will take you to where you can directly download what I've pasted in the chat window for those that are with us live, which has the history. It has a transcript of Jamiel's testimony, and it has the colleague letter from Congressman Jones. If you scroll on down, there's links to the Jamiel's Law website, which I have open over here. There's also links here to several interviews that Mr. Shaw has given, along with his testimony from 2013 before a different committee that was probably more sensational in that there was actual confrontation in the hearing. But I have to agree with Dawn in that Jamiel's testimony before the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee's National Security Subcommittee was his best testimony yet. It was the most compelling testimony that was given that day by anybody. And as Dawn referenced, it is a bipartisan bill. The ranking member had co-sponsored the bill before the hearing was even over. Based on the written testimony that Jamiel submitted, which is in that document. Somewhere here, amongst these 10,000 documents I have open. Yeah, this document. Starts out with one page of the history, the one page of Congressman Jones's letter to other members of Congress, then Jamiel's testimony. And there's a link to that in the footer. You go to ISupportJamielsLaw.com, or you just search in Google for Jamiel's Law. Or even type in JamielsLaw.com. It'll take you to their website, and there is a ton of information there as well. And with that, introduced the gentleman who's here because of notoriety more than anything, in that his son was killed by an illegal alien gangbanger or dreamer in March of 2008 in Los Angeles, in part because of a bad policy, Special Order 40, which kind of prohibited the LAPD from cooperating and working with Immigration Customs Enforcement. And that's a lot of what this bill does. It adds nationality and legal status to the crime reports that state and local law enforcement are required to give to the FBI anyway. It's under the Uniform Crime Reporting Act for violent crimes, rapes, robberies, murders, and the like. Just adds 2 more categories. And for those sanctuary cities and states that don't want to participate, don't want to cooperate with then they'll lose some of their any funding they get from Homeland Security if they don't want to cooperate. And can unmute yourself, Mr. Shaw.
Oh, yes, yeah. My name is Jamiel Shaw. How you doing today? Jeff?
Good evening, Jamiel. I asked you to come tonight because we want the folks who haven't heard your story to hear it briefly as to why there's a bill in Congress named after your son.
Okay, yeah. My son in March of 2008, March the 2nd to be exact, he was walking home from the mall, and a legal alien, 18th Street gangbanger was released from the LA County Jail for assault with a deadly weapon, battery on a peace officer. He only stayed in jail, well, his sentence was 8 months. I guess he plea bargained 8 months, and he only stayed in jail 4 months, and the same day he got out, within 24 hours, they were looking for black people to shoot, and it was in my neighborhood, and then, of course, he ran to my son, and he shot him in the stomach, shot him in the head, and murdered him just because he was black. And I say that because that's what was proven in court. Of course, when it first happened, I actually thought somebody black did it. I didn't even think a Latino, better known, a legal alien. I wasn't even thinking like that. I just figured somebody he thought was his friend, because he was, real popular and really good in sports. So I just thought maybe, somebody was jealous of him or had somebody's girlfriend. I don't know. But then, of course, when it came about, a little bit more came out, a little bit more. And then, of course, the evidence was pointing to he was shot dead. And, of course, in court, it was proven, that's what the prosecution proved, that he was shot because he was black, carrying a Spider-Man backpack. That was the only reason why he was dead. So because of that, of course, that's why we're pushing the Jamiel Andre Shaw, the Second Memorial Act, 1041, is because if they would have been tracking or keeping statistics and then made them public, you never know. Maybe we would have found out, maybe the public would have, maybe he would have went out that night if I would have known that they're having trouble with illegal aliens, shooting people, killing blacks. Because, matter of fact, the sheriff of L.A. County told me to my face, we had a talk, he told me in the county jail, the Latino gang members or the shot callers make them go and shoot somebody black for some reason when they get out. And then for the main reason why was that when you go to the county jail, people are trying to get debilitated, they want to go home, they might get out and go straight. So they order on right back out there to commit a crime, a hardcore crime. So it'll be like they never stop. So they're right back out there in the game. Nobody's allowed to, try to change their life. It's not allowed. So they put pressure on him, and they used black people as bait, and that's what he was doing in my neighborhood. He was actually looking for somebody black to kill, and they were like taking a break and went to my neighbor's house. That's why they were on my street. So, you know, if we would have known that we was having this trouble in the neighborhood, we had statistics, it was being broadcasted, you know, published, people would know about that and they could do something to protect themselves. They wouldn't be walking around and, you know, down the street, you know, because apparently it proved, you know, it was proven that we can't walk down the street. You know, if you're doing it today, then you're just lucky, because in my family, it was proven walking down the street, minding your business, people still kill you, illegal aliens. So,
well, one of the things too about the bill, Jamiel, too, is that what would have happened different is because they live in LA County, Special Order 40, sanctuary city. This bill would force them to either lose funding from DHS or they would have to report statistics. And I know that a lot of people, I know you get now why even statistics are so important. I think people tend to sort of think, well, you know, how does that really change anything? Well, you know, it changes because based on what you're already reading in the paper about all the people that were released, instead of being deported after committing crimes, and the number, by the way, is 3 times more what you think it is, and probably more even than that.
right.
You know, if nobody's tracking who's here in the country, where they're from, and what crimes they're committing, this is why we have the situation we have today, where we find out after the fact that the government has released all these people back into the wild.
Yeah.
Instead of following through with what the law says, which is to deport them.
Yeah, and then Special Order 40 is basically was designed because of what you were just saying, that they so-called couldn't get illegal aliens to come forward because it was obvious that most illegal alien crimes were being committed in illegal alien neighborhoods, you know, on illegal aliens, you know, and they couldn't report it because they were scared they're going to get deported. So Special Order 40 was designed just for that, and it's not doing a damn thing. All it did was give them protection, and they found that out real fast that nothing has changed, but now the officers can't even initiate immigration procedures, you know, because of Special Order 40. So all that did was just give them another layer of protection. So that backfired as usual, and now they use it as a crutch because they don't even enforce that part anymore anyway. So it's just completely over with. So they'd have moved on from that.
The great thing about California is that we are the petri dish of all failed liberal policy. And if you actually believe the mantra that as goes California, goes to the nation, you should be really concerned, because LA County isn't the only sanctuary city out there. As a matter of fact, no matter what state you're in, you probably have some sanctuary cities.
Yeah, everybody got one.
So in the last couple of Congresses now, especially now that it's being reintroduced this time, everybody likes to, and I know I recently did a show, TV news show with you and Anita, and everybody tries to act like, you know, there is no chance in hell of getting this passed. And I think under normal circumstances that might be true, but we have kind of this great perfect storm that's happened thanks to the president actually giving us the go-ahead. I mean, you have a president who has said, you know, that the last thing they want to do is keep felons, that it's families over felons, and, you know, all Congress has to do is give him a bill to sign, and he's happy to work with them. And what changes so profoundly with statistics is, first of all, anybody that works in any kind of advocates or organizers or activists, you know that statistics, the government just loves a good statistic. They're so busy fudging all their statistics, though, you're never sure what's going on. But it can change policy, because then you know how to allocate funds, you know how to allocate resources. And at a time when we're talking about, it's not just what's happening with gang members in this country or illegals that are committing crimes. We're talking also at a time when the national security of this country, it has never been more laxed since 9/11 than what we see now. And so it makes it really important. And you've been getting a lot of press. How do you feel about how people have sort of opened up this time around? What do you think has made them, interested in your story?
I don't even know, to be truthful, because I tell the same story. It's just that, I just equate it to like a child actor or, some kind of celebrity that they're famous now, but you can look back when they were first starting out, and they were getting the wrong roles and put in the long hours, and eventually they stayed there, compared to some people who probably gave up and said, screw it, and moved on. That's how I see it, is that longevity, just keep doing it and keep doing it. And, eventually some, have to happen, good or bad. But, yeah, you just keep plugging away, and then eventually people hear it and hear it and hear it. And like you were saying, there are different things that make people listen, and different shows. And it's just, it's fickly, because some people, the majority of people have to have a taste of what I'm talking about to understand it. That's the sad part, because there's a lot of people who don't want to know. And I tell people all the time, you don't want to know, what it's like to know exactly how I feel. And that's a good thing. Pray and thank God that, that you were spared, because there's a lot of parents out there and, family members that weren't. And you don't want to know what it's like. But that doesn't motivate people to do anything. The majority of people, just the fact that it didn't happen to them, they figure that, they're special or they're blessed, and they don't really try to prevent it because they don't believe that it'll happen to them. Of course, I was the same way. I wasn't running around trying to make sure my son didn't get killed by illegal alien, or, I was worried about black people. I was worried about Crips and the Bloods, and I was worried about black people. I wasn't even thinking about Mexicans, better known, like I say, illegal. So that's how you get, But then when you get people like me that come along and tell you about it and tell you the story, and then if you still don't do nothing, then it's pretty much on you, because, you see, no one came. I didn't hear no story about nobody like me before my son got killed by illegal alien. I didn't hear nothing like that. I heard about illegals, but I didn't know they were killing. You hear about the killing and stuff like that, but, the media never really tells you the truth,
Well, and what doesn't get publicized,
right,
which actually isn't so extraordinary, but it is in your story, is that your son wasn't a gang member. Even though there were papers that in LA that tried to, at the very, very beginning, tried to put that out there, he was just a good kid doing all the right stuff. You were parents doing all the right things. Your kid was, being scouted by great universities, was good in school, was a star athlete, was doing all the right stuff, and this happened. And I think because of that, maybe people are finally relating to your story, because I think most parents look at Jamiel and say, that's how my kid is. My kid isn't a gangbanger. My kid isn't this. My kid isn't that. They're just doing the right stuff. And yet in their neighborhood, this can happen. And the thing that always angered me about, and I'm glad you brought it up at your testimony, is that so here you have the testimony happening right after Ferguson has totally exploded, and we're doing the whole Black Lives Matter, and I was always angry because I kept thinking, where's Jamiel's parade? Where's the parade for Jamiel? Where's the president coming out? If I had a son, he would be like Jamiel.
Right.
Evidently, the only kid he wants his son to be is the kid that's committing the crime, not the one that's the victim of the crime.
Right. And that's
what I have on the screen right now is from the Jamiel's Law information pack that Richard and I took for Capitol Hill in the last Congress, and this particular page, one of the images is some of Jamiel's trophies and awards and ribbons. And it's just a couple of tables full of this stuff. Not an average kid by no stretch of the imagination. It's certainly not. He was living the American dream.
Oh yeah, he had it. It's crazy how that is. It's weird because it's like you say, when it first happened, they knew who he was immediately because she was. When you saw the crimes he was committing, it was like, man, they knew about him. So when they found out it was him, they wasn't surprised that he did it. I'm sure they heard about it anyway. But yeah, they had to dirty up my son because they couldn't say, oh my God, look what happened now. We done got this kid ain't doing nothing, no criminal record. They've been suspended from school, getting good grades, getting recruited, all city, 3-time MVP, player of the year. Like Jeff was saying, all these trophies, and these weren't just trophies that they give to all the kids because they participated. These were MVP trophies, player of the year, just all the, he was just doing what, most kids would be doing, when they're not in the gang committing crimes. So they had to make it seem like, oh, it was a gang on gang. He had a red Spider-Man backpack and then of course when all the evidence came in, you didn't see none of the people saying, oh, okay, this would happen. But it was all there. I mean, everything came out. They even had a captain. Now, in the black community, that's a big deal to be a black captain of the LAPD. That's big time. Okay? They had a captain in the LAPD, retired, who was working for the 18th Street gang and was going through all the neighborhood just trying to get somebody to come to court and say my son was in the gang. People were calling my house telling me, neighbors were saying, hey, man, this guy gave me this card, and they showing me the card, captain of the LAPD, never mentioning retired on there. They're thinking the police was over their house, right? Of course, you saw in court, nobody showed up because it wasn't true. They couldn't get not one person, no police, no gang units, no probation department. He was clean. So what they did is say, well, we'll just ignore everything then because they couldn't go after him. Plus, he didn't do nothing. Plus, his daddy wasn't going to let you. The district attorney, when I went to her office, it was just how corrupt they were. The whole system is so corrupt for illegals. They even have deputy district attorneys coming to me and say, well, you know there's people in your case that might be illegal and you shouldn't be talking like that. Now, I didn't even know there were people in the case that was illegal besides him. Now, she's telling me that, but wouldn't tell me everything, just enough to make me say, well, I guess illegals are okay. And I'm like, what do you worry about my T-shirt? It was stuff like that. I had to get people kicked off the case. Deputy district attorney Steve Cooley personally kicked 2 of them off the case because they were leaning too heavy on illegal aliens. Even though my son was clean, they still had to figure out a way to get a 2-for-1. Like we know we're going to get him. It's obvious what happened, but if we can get this kid's credibility, but they couldn't do that because I wouldn't let them, and the evidence didn't prove it, or you would have heard it. That's all you would have heard about in L.A. if they would have found anything. Because they had to find something. So what they did, the black community in L.A. quit talking about it. They just said forget it. They wouldn't put it in no black newspapers. You know, they wouldn't talk about it. They just made it seem like, you know, that I'm being used by the white people and, you know, stuff like that. It's the same way today. When you talk about the law in the neighborhood, they don't even know about it. You have to tell people about it, but they don't know because no one's going to tell them about it. You know, you don't want to motivate the black people. Right now, they're passive. Everybody's on some kind of welfare. They're getting free everything. So you don't want to disturb that by, hey, they're killing kids over here for no reason. You could be next. You know, they don't want to talk like that. So they just dirty you up or don't talk about it. And most parents that have dead kids, they know what I'm talking about. The grieving process is not about activity. It's about, you know, sedentary, just sitting. And if you don't push yourself, you'll sit in the house, think yourself into until you cuckoo, just thinking and thinking and thinking and wishing and hoping.
And you must go over that day. I was telling somebody recently that, and I've heard your story. I've heard your sister Althea talk about it. I've heard you talk about it. But the first time I got to hear your son's mother, your wife Anita, talk about it was a couple of weeks ago when we all did the Rick and Motto show. And for the ladies out there who are moms, sisters, wives, daughters, to see a mother relive that, because I know that every time you guys tell the story, you are reliving that. You see, feel, taste everything about that day. And to see Anita just, and both of you, I mean, especially since, for those of you that don't know, Anita was serving in Iraq at the time. She's in the Army. And so she wasn't even home when this happened. So I can't even imagine, you know, any of us having, as you said, you know, you damn well better hope you never have to be in your position. But I just think it's so amazing that you guys as a family have decided to stick with this and really see that something gets changed to help the process and that there is somebody being held accountable, because what is happening now isn't holding anybody accountable. We're not holding our law enforcement, and for most of us, we know, you know, plenty of law enforcement that are just begging. I mean, you ask the FBI why they don't hold these statistics, they'll tell you straight up. We don't do it because Congress isn't making us do it. Nobody's given us a directive to do it. And most things are done through a voluntary collaboration. And, you know, for the amounts of money that we spend on crime, quote unquote, crime prevention, we do such a disservice by hiding what's really happening in the country. And it's not just LA, it's not just San Diego. I'm 15 minutes from the border. You know, it's an everyday thing on the news. I get 6, 7 emails from different news sources every day to tell me a story that has a headline of killed by undocumented or illegal.
Yeah.
And that's not just, by the way, folks, just from Mexico. We know we've got people coming up through South America that are Arab. We know there are people they've found in some of the tunnels. They've found prayer rugs and Qurans and literature in Arabic. So this isn't even just a, you know, illegal from Mexico kind of thing. I mean, people need to understand it is extraordinary how much government has been okay with putting their heads in the sand. In the meantime, what they do is they don't help those people that are really trying to make a difference, like the sheriff from Sacramento County that also testified with you. You know, he's pissed beyond belief because the government's making his job harder. So I mean, you guys felt everything. You just kept getting victimized, and that's another part of the story that until people hear you talk about it, they don't get. You know, that people came to help. People came to help originally, right?
Oh yeah. At one time, we had the black politicians were here because they were going to use me to go after the gun. See, they thought I'll be a perfect person to go after the gun, but as time went on, they realized that he ain't going that way, so they just jumped off the ship right when we heard the legal alien, and that was all she wrote. Because they knew those people not crazy. They were here, then they would send their people by, and they would talk and they talk. I'm sure they were saying, I don't know, man, this guy here, once he find out what's going on, he's gonna be pissed. He's gonna be pissed, and sure enough, that's what happened because they kept the details away because they knew, I was surrounded by liberals. The conservative people were there, but the liberals were just smothering it. I mean, I was surrounded by left-wing wackos because at the time I didn't realize it. I thought they were supporters, but then as time went on, and of course everything was directed toward these people are using you, and people were like conservative type people, or the anti-legal immigration people were around too, so I'm hearing from both ends. So then, of course, I was always hearing, they using you and stuff like that. And, of course, hey, I realized how I really was. That was me the whole time. So they left. All of them. They're all are sellouts. See, a real sellout is what they do, but they call sellouts in the black community people who are doing good or smart or talk proper or go after the legal aliens. Those are the sellouts, they make us, but the real ones are the ones who allow our whole community to be victimized and do nothing because they have jobs that they get a lot of money that they can control the masses with welfare. So that's why even with 1041, we're pushing, everybody's pushing, but until you get black people and Latinos out there showing that they're pissed off too, they always make it think it's just the white man and the Ku Klux Klan, and they never advertise in the black neighborhood when you see black people complaining about legal immigration. They don't show that. 2-4, all the news things.
Yeah, but you have a huge supporter up there in Reverend Jesse Lee Peterson, and he's become a firebrand, much like yourself, because tell him the secrets. Secrets are getting out about the black community. When I talked to California about this in the last Congress, because we have supported this bill in the past, I have a weekly call, have done it for 6 years with California leaders. We have 330 leaders from all over the state that we work with from various conservative organizations. And when I told them last year that, we were going to try to get it reintroduced and that I'd come on board this campaign, I had people in the LA area who were so thrilled because they had worked with you and your family in the past. They had gone to various events where you spoke. They were so supportive of you and your family that they were thrilled to see that, okay, they're going to do it again. Awesome, So, if for California, they were excited, because they, we looked at it like this happened in our backyard. We're going to push this. And so for all those people that think, what sellouts you are, no, you're just a part of a bigger community that actually takes care of itself. And that's what California is trying to do, and hopefully the nation does it with us.
Yeah. On the 19th, for those who were listening and not watching what I was doing, the Patriot Coalition decided to for Gateway to Congress, and then come down and click on congress.gov. Go there, search for HR 1041, and you can see where it's at, if there's been any amendment to the co-sponsors are, what committees. You notice on the 16th, the two parent committees are House Judiciary and House Homeland Security committees. But last Thursday, Judiciary sent it to a judiciary subcommittee on immigration and border security. Homeland Security Committee sent it to their Emergency Preparedness, Response, and Communications Subcommittee. So then I went back to their Gateway page and just clicked on the first one, House of Representatives, and then chose committees, which was in the main title bar, then Homeland Security, then scrolled down and found the Emergency Preparedness, Response, and Communications Committee. And you can do the same thing for the Judiciary Subcommittee. They've only had one hearing so far, and that was last Thursday. So this subcommittee is just getting going for the 114th Congress. Over here on the right, they don't really want you to see this, but they have the names of the members of the committee. These are folks we need to reach out to and need everybody's help to reach out to. The Subcommittee on Emergency Preparedness, Response, and Communications of the House Homeland Security Committee, to these members requesting a hearing for H.R. 1041.
We also want co-sponsors to it as well. And
how many people do you have to have?
Well, you really don't need any. But
no, to have
in the interest of advancing a bill, it helps to have, the more the merrier. And it helps to have people from both parties. So it's a bipartisan effort.
So can Walter Jones call for a hearing on his own to say, I want to have a hearing on this bill?
He can make the request, but it carries more weight if there's more co-sponsors.
Oh, okay.
So that's why we've been coming up with this list of people doing our homework on different Congress people to see who we think would be ripe for co-sponsoring. We had a commitment from Congressman Duncan Hunter to co-sign, to co-sponsor the bill, and that would be huge. He hasn't signed on yet, but we are going to continue to put the pressure on him. And we have a list of other people that we'll put up at the website, and I'll send over to you, Jamiel, if you guys want to put it up at your website too. Because the more people that show interest and the more people that are signing on, the better it's going to be and the easier it's going to be for us to get a hearing. And especially since these guys are doing nothing about, and it's not, no matter what you guys hear, it's not the Republicans that are being obstructionists, and I'm not a huge fan of the Republicans anyway, but it's actually both sides couldn't care less right now about comprehensive immigration reform. They want to stay as far away from it as possible.
It's only, they don't even talk about it no more on TV.
No. And as much as, Gutierrez wants to make himself, you got to ask why, Gutierrez comes out from Illinois to California to sell some stuff. It's like you're not even elected from here.
Right.
So, and the only committee that they have on immigration is this subcommittee.
And Dianne Feinstein was leading the country talking about illegal immigration, You know, she did reports and everything about gangs, legal alien gangs, and all kind of stuff. But then she didn't even back her own report.
I should. Diane Feinstein talks a really good game and does nothing.
Yeah.
On the Judiciary Subcommittee on Immigration and Border Security, you'll see Representative King and Representative Laughlin. This is Steve King. This bill is in part a result of the GAO studies that Steve King and Zoe Laughlin commissioned in 2011 and that he did back in 2005. And he's a co-sponsor of 1041. I also see Gutierrez is on that committee, so it should be an interesting hearing if we can get one. But I do have some respect for the chairman, Trey Gowdy, and for vice chairman, Representative Labrador. If you recall, Jamiel, at the hearing you testified at in 2013, it was Representative Labrador who challenged Representative Johnson's reprehensible behavior.
Right.
That forced the chairman to say, wait a minute, I'm not going to give either of y'all any more time. I'm going to give it to Jamiel.
Yeah.
That was. And you handled that well.
Mhm.
So every time we can get Jamiel an opportunity to testify, he brings the house down in a dignified way.
Thanks.
So, folks, go to house.gov, look up Judiciary, go to Immigration and Border Security Subcommittee. Reach out to these members of this committee, just like the Emergency Preparedness, Response, and Communications committees. And if you don't have to write this down, I got all this off the bill page at congress.gov, put in the bill number, come down here, click on committees, and it shows you where it's at and when it got there. So right now it's in these two subcommittees, in Homeland Security and Judiciary. And by all means, if you have it, you can also read the bill there. And it's not a long bill, it's only 4 pages. It's really not quite 4 pages. And you can get the PDF, which is what I prefer. You can download the PDF and share it. It's 10:02. Dawn, Jamiel, will we leave out?
What did you say?
I said it's top of the hour. I was looking at wrapping up the show.
Oh, okay.
Is there anything else that you'd like to add or to encourage people to do?
Just to do, just like you said, call your Congress people, let them know that you want this bill passed. This is all we got. We got going on. There's no reason for them to be against it. Why would they be against something that would help Americans? It'll help them. Just let them know it's going to help your kids too, your grandkids, your nieces and nephews. It's going to help you too. They think it's just, it's for them. Yep, that's it for me.
Thank you. Thanks for coming on, Jamiel. I look forward to the next time you and I can make the rounds in D.C.
Oh, yeah.
And maybe we can get this bill moving.
Oh, yeah. Keep up the good work. Thanks for everything.
Anything that we can do to help, sir. Dawn?
Thanks, Jamiel. Appreciate it. As always, you rock. I think you rock. And give your family a big hug for me, and we'll talk again soon.
All right. You too. Thank you. I appreciate all you're doing. Okay, bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Jamiel.